Well, let's talk about this imminent shakeup in President Bwala Tinubu's cabinet. What is it about? How soon will it happen? How do you rate these ministers or cabinet members, as the case may be? We have joining us on the program this morning, Mr. Daniel Bwala, legal practitioner, and barrister Lincoln Zane is right here with us in our Abuja studio. Mr. Bwala, you're welcome to the morning brief.
Thank you. Good to see you in Abuja.
Well, yes, we have to just come closer to the seat of power to get what exactly is happening. Just a few kilometers away, we saw Mr. Bayo Nonuga making that statement, saying that the shakeup is imminent. He didn't give a time frame, saying it's a prerogative of the president to decide when, but he said that the president had spoken about shaking up his cabinet. But before that, I need to deal with the elephant in the room. A lot of people had tipped you to become the presidential spokesperson. Some said, no, don't put him. Some said, well, he's the person that the cap fits anyway. But the question for me is not whether or not you're interested in that job. The question is whether the president is interested in you to take that job. Is that something you've gotten?
Well, I'm not aware of, first of all, thank you and good morning. I'm not aware of this thing you talked about.
Which of them? People are tipping you for the job?
Yeah, that people are tipping and all that. I read things on social media. What I know is that every citizen of Nigeria who believes in government and how government should be run should play his part in supporting the government in whatever way you can, especially in areas you feel you have what we call a comparative advantage. So, and that is what we have been doing without necessarily having to wait for appointment. If you remember from January 10, when I first met with the president and officially told him of my commitment to support him, from that day onward and up to today, I mean, the zeal, the zest, the commitment in advocating for his government and his achievement has always been our priority. And that to me is the motivation. If you are given official capacity to do what you're already doing in the private capacity, it's a different ballgame. But my point is that we are committed to supporting the president.
So no one has asked for your CV yet in the presidency?
My CV is out in the media.
No, you know how these things work. They will ask for your CV. Has anybody asked, as a president, you shown interest?
I plead the fifth.
Well, that doesn't work here on the morning brief. No, just to be clear, because these things are out there, and I'm sure you've heard that. Some say you cannot be trusted. And I'm sure you've seen that report. Some say, no, he can't be trusted. He spoke against the president. Some say, well, he's been doing this work already. Just make it official. So are you interested to begin with?
I say I plead the fifth. Section 36 of the Constitution talks about right to be silent.
Whatever happened to you being transparent, telling Nigerians...
What I am saying, Mr. Kayode, is that every citizen who believes in this government, as I do believe strongly that the president is committed to the reform of Nigeria. Right. I know that because a lot of presidents in the past have not summoned the courage to take the bold step he has taken. Because certainly if you take that bold step, it will be a different ball game for Nigeria. When you are trying to reset, certainly it is going to be visited with economic consequence, which is what we're saying. So when he took that decision, you find that only a few courageous people will stand with him and continue to advocate for that, because that policy is not popular. Okay. And I know it's for the good of Nigeria.
I see what you're doing here, but I'm a bit disappointed. I know you to always speak straight, but this one, you seem to be dodging. So I wonder if there are other things at play here. So we'll set that aside for a moment.
Thank you.
And talk about the bigger picture here. Yeah. And that is the fact that an imminent shakeup is on the horizon, and this has been on for a while. Some say it's just a ruse, it will not happen, and some say, well, let's wait and see. But my point here is this: for the ministers who have not come out to speak, some say they're TV shy, but they weren't TV shy during campaign. They were not crowd shy during campaign. A lot of these people came out and spoke about this, the president, but all of a sudden, they've gone cold. A lot of them don't take their calls. Some are not even available. The numbers that were ringing before, the election and the victory and appointment is not going through anymore. So is it that they're media shy, or they don't really have much to defend? If they were to sit beside me now, I'll show them inflation figures. I'll show them unemployment figures. I'll show them the reality of things. And they're like, I can't take all of that heat. So what exactly do you think is that?
I think that, Mr. Kayode, that exactly the point that the president is making. And if you want to give an excuse as a minister to say that maybe you are not in the media department or in the media corner of the president or of the government, he is saying, but you are a minister of the federation and you have a ministry that you preside over. So you must know what you have achieved in your ministry. And you are the best prophet of the message of the ministry. And so if what you have achieved is worth talking about, and you go ahead talking, that means we are going to have as much the number of ministers as the spokesperson of the president, so to speak. If you have 30 ministers are speaking. That means that the pressure will be laid on the president. He doesn't have to come out to explain what someone else has already done. He said, go and speak, don't be media shy. But I think the point is that, and exactly the point, when you do not have, this is not about the government, it's about you. You assign responsibility to someone, and he doesn't have much to say about that. So he tries to avoid the media. Because when you talk about media shy in politics, before you venture into politics, either as a player or as a supporter in politics, one instrument in politics is your vocal cavity. Your ability to articulate what either the policy of government or your own policy or what your own dreams are for the people. When you cannot speak, your work cannot speak, then that means there is a fundamental problem, not with the government, but with you. But the reason why the president is talking about rejigging is because he has the mandate of the people. Section 5 of the Constitution says the executive powers of the Federation lies in the president, and that he execute that responsibility either by himself or through the vice president or through the ministers of the government of the Federation or other organs of government and agents of government. So when you are there on his behalf. And so if you can't speak, then definitely you will have to assess, because what you have done cannot be hidden. And that's why there was this KPI, if you remember, at the inaugural lecture they had. They set KPI for every person. And you can tell, without nobody saying whether you perform or not, you can tell based on the KPI and what you have achieved. So what he did the other time was he said, go and engage with Nigerians and tell Nigerians what my objectives were, what your assignment was at the time, and how you have achieved it. If you remember, there was a time each minister, they had a press briefing, I think for 5 days or so, where everybody had to talk. You could see, Nigerians can see those who were able to articulate that, and those who weren't able to articulate.
But the challenge is, pardon me, Mr. Bwala, they're not able to sit down and have a conversation. Right. Let the press ask you questions. Same way I'm asking you questions. Correct. Let's look at what you've done or what you've not
Correct.
done.
Correct.
And say, what is going on here? And I'm looking at a list of over 40 ministers, and I can pick the ones that have actually spoken out, offered themselves for interviews. I can count a handful of it. And it takes me to this question before we go to our Lagos studio.
Right.
Does that mean that the president didn't choose the right people for these jobs?
No.
Because you don't change a winning team, Mr. Bwala. So obviously, these teams or these players are not performing well. It speaks to their performance if they cannot come to speak. And this is out there, Nigerians know this thing. But I want to go back to the president's choice of these people. Do you think he's looking back and saying, I didn't pick the right people for this positions?
Not necessarily, because the president does not have the celestial powers to know whether you can or cannot.
No, I'm saying now with the performance.
So with the performance now, and that's why he has put out the words that he's going to do it. I think part of the confusion we have in the media is that people try to peg what he will do to events. May 29, he will do it. He didn't do it. June 11, whatever, he will do it. He didn't do it. Oh, he's going to do it in August because they are clocking the first year. Oh, no, he didn't. Oh, 1st October. He's not going to be guided by events. He's going to be guided by when he wants to. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Because one, nobody asked the president to set the KPI. In fact, all the presidents in the past, he is one president who is bold enough to say, look, I'm not going to cover anybody. I will give you all the support you need to perform your duty, but I will assess you. And if you don't do well, it's not going to be on your face or whether I know you or you were with me before. Once there is non-performance on your part, I am going to ask you to go. So for those who have failed him, look, this is how I look at it. I look at it that the president does not have a problem of entrusting responsibility, but those who have failed him have failed themselves and their destiny. Because one thing about life is opportunity. And sometimes you don't even know somebody has the capacity to do something until you give him the responsibility, and that's what he has done. And most presidents, after they win election in the first term, is politics. There are one or two people making a recommendation, so you tend to give people opportunity. When it doesn't happen, then you will now come out and do what you think.
A lot of people have looked at this list originally and said, I don't think this person is fit. You're appointing a politician to a role that you have to, that you need to have put someone who is a professional or an expert in that field. So people had raised this, but saying that it's happening over a year after another thing. But let's go to our labels.
But allow me to say something about that.
Let's allow Bwala come in.
30 seconds.
You can add it to your response so we can have a well-rounded conversation. Bwala, over to you now.
Well, thank you so much, Kadi. Good morning, Mr. Bwala. Really, you know, I understand why you would like to... Yes, I understand why you would be sticking to the fifth, Mr. Bwala, because in case you get considered and you are perhaps included in Mr. President's cabinet, you would be getting 2.26 million naira per annum as basic salary, but that's not the real deal. The real deal is that you'll also be getting 1.519 million naira for fueling your cars or car, 500,000 naira for domestic staff remuneration, 1.5 million naira for entertainment allowance, 911,000 naira for utilities, just to mention a few. And this is according to, you know, information from the RMAFC. But Mr. Bwala, really, we'll get to that later on. I want to really start with a comment from one of our viewers this morning who says that if indeed these ministers are working, there would be evidence. So I'd like you to be categorical as much as possible. From what you see on ground, the work of Mr. President's 49 ministers, who should stay, who should go, who should be moved?
This question you've asked is like $1 million question, and I don't think I have the jurisdiction to answer that, because as per who to stay and who to go, it is the prerogative of the president. I will be interested in answering questions such as, do you think, given what the administration has achieved, have the ministers been able to articulate effectively? Then we will have a conversation as to whether they've done that or not. Or if you are specific with the ministry to say, this particular ministry, are they able to meet up with the KPI? Because I haven't seen the KPI for myself, except that during the during the public engagement, they were able to say some of them who were well enough to articulate that. And I know for a fact that given what this administration has achieved, very little has been conveyed to the Nigerian people. And oftentimes it's because some people feel that the media is hostile to government. No, the media's responsibility is called people in public office to account on behalf of the Nigerian people. And the media use their mouth in asking, you use your mouth to answer. So why should you be afraid of coming out to talk on behalf of the president? Then there are other agents of government that very sadly, their attitude suggests that they don't even believe in the president. They rather want to play safe. So because there is an outcry about economic reform, which the consequence has brought a little bit of hardship to the Nigerian people, and we're all trying to navigate our way, they feel that if they put themselves in the line defending the government, they will incur the wrath of the people. So they want to be clever by heart or smart. They will rather that they stay behind, let others do the talk, hoping that that way they will be able to cover themselves from the backlash of the people. But this is my philosophy. If you believe in someone, it is like the case of a bodyguard. You are to take the bullet for the person. And most importantly, if you believe in someone, it is your duty to study what he has achieved and be able to convey to the Nigerian people. And even where you think that there is probably a failure, we are not afraid to fail in life. Government is not afraid to fail. But what you must always judge with government is that at every given time, the motive of the government, the intention of the government, and the accountability that the government brings to the people should be a factor for assessment. Not necessarily because you want to see some extraordinary thing before you do that. So the president is assessing whether some people believe in his administration, because if you do, you will be a messenger of what you believe in. But as to say who should go and who should stay is the prerogative of the president. Only the president knows who will go and who will stay. Anybody else who tells you he knows who will go and who will stay, I think the person is either second guessing or the person is not being fair to himself.
Mr. Bwala, I understand why you would be diplomatic at this time in answering this question. But if you would rather have it rephrased, perhaps we should rephrase it, because you are a Nigerian, and some would disagree with you, when you say that the Nigerians do not believe in this administration. Some would say that Nigerians have, in fact, been very patient with the administration and, watched to see what it would offer. So if we could rephrase it, Mr. Bwala, perhaps in the Ministry of Finance, where we have a minister who is also the coordinating minister of the economy, has that ministry been able to transform the economic fortunes of the country such that we see a ramp up in revenues and a reduction in our debt, and we see a viable and thriving economy based on commerce? Have we seen that? In the Ministry of Agriculture, for instance, which is pivotal, to the survival of the nation, have we seen an abundance in agricultural development where, food is not a difficulty for the common man as what we find today? Just those two examples to begin with.
Yeah, so, but a little bit, a point of correction. I never said Nigerians do not believe in the administration. I am saying that if you are an appointee of the president and you are shy or ashamed of coming out to talk about the policy of the president, then invariably what you are saying is that you do not believe in the administration. Otherwise, we are messengers of what you believe. It's a general concept of life. If you cannot be a messenger of the administration, then you are saying you do not believe in the administration. There is no any other way to explain. Either you are incompetent or that you do not believe in the administration. That's why you can't speak. That's the point for that one. In terms of specific ministries, like I told you, if it is for the purposes of conversation around public impression or public expectation, is a different kettle of fish. But if you're talking of the performance of the ministers, and in pari, you are ranking it in pari passu with the president's decision, then what is guiding whether or not somebody has performed is not my opinion. I know I would have opinion that masses will have. It is the KPI. There is a KPI. It is like exams. You know that when you are preparing for WAEC, there are so many subjects, limitless subjects in the air. But for the purposes of that WAEC, there are specific questions based on specific topics regarding specific issues that you are going to be assessed. It is your performance within that orbit that will determine whether you pass WAEC or not. But assuming somebody wants to assess you based on what is outside of the plan of WAEC, the specific subject, topic, and area, then you are going to be having what we call misfiring. In my practice of law, when you ask a question and you try to give stories before you come to that, you already failed the question. You have to identify the issue, find the relevant law, apply the law, and then make a conclusion. So this is what I would say. And this is why I said it is the president that will know that, because he knows the KPI he has given to the people. But I agree with you, Bukola, and with many Nigerians, that because many ministers have not been able to come out and defend what they were asked to do, there is a general assumption that they have failed. If you have not failed, you will defend it. And there are some ministries that what they do or don't do has a direct effect on the masses. Some ministries are implementation-based ministry. Some ministries are policy-based ministry. Policy-based ministry are assessed based on the policies that they have applied, and then that policy will be measured along other alternative policies. So, for example, economics is a theory, and there are many theories to economics. So, if you apply certain economic theory to a particular policy of government and it is not working, then are you able to flexibly change to a policy that will work? If it does not, the president will know that the economics are there and they have been making their interventions. When it is implementation based, like you talk about agriculture, we know money was given, you are supposed to affect this area, provide seedings, give this to the masses, or humanitarian intervention in this area, then we will ask, if these things have happened, why is it that we don't have a data to show? Why is it that the masses that have been impacted or affected by the policy have not been able to come out, or there is no assessment in your ministry to say this number of people were affected by government policy? So if it is implementation-based ministry, it is easy to assess.
Mr. Bwala, beyond the president's KPI, you are a Nigerian. Is it acceptable that we have a current exchange rate now that is 1,600 naira plus to the dollar? How is that ministry performing? You are in Nigeria, and is it acceptable that you're buying a bag of rice for over 80,000 naira now? Mr. Bwala, you are in Nigeria. So beyond the KPI, are these ministries performing? It's simple.
Okay, the answer is, I'll give you an answer this way. As a Nigerian, I'm not comfortable that the economic hardship is telling on everybody. All of us are affected. But then also, because there is a higher responsibility on my part to know why is it that the naira is a certain peg to a dollar, and why is it that the value of food has gone up to certain level, I will go beyond just making emotional statement to say, do I care enough to know? So, for example, the policy that were introduced, removal of subsidy, floating of the naira, how is the foundation for the reason why inflation comes? Now, what are we doing to curb inflation? There are many areas. So, if you want me to say whether the Minister of Finance is working or not, I think that policy-wise, the Minister of Finance has tried, but whether he's flexible enough, to keep applying policies that are tailored to the specifics, then you will have a different conversation. For example, the IMF policy is there, and whether you tinker with those policies to meet up with the expectation of the masses. So I think he's doing well.
Well, Mr. Bwala, I'm looking at the list of ministers, and they will take time to go through all of them. Agriculture, water resources, special duties, police affairs, labor and employment, justice, information, steel. Nigerians don't even know some of these ministries because they don't see the work. And they're like, if you're not there, then you can as well just pack your bags and go home. Final note, 1 minute, Mr. Bwala. Some see this as the president simply deflecting. The buck stops at his table.
Correct.
Deflecting the attention.
Right.
If ministers have failed, your government has failed.
That is exactly the reason why he wants to do the rejigging, because he acknowledges the fact that there is enough that has been done but has not been communicated.
What does that say about him as the captain of the ship? You take the responsibility. So again, some say as the president is deflecting,
but he has never
blame the ministers. But how about you blame the president for these challenges as well? It's fair and square.
No, so I will blame the president if, for example, the president does not change the cabinet when he has acknowledged that there is a failure in the cabinet. All of us have acknowledged the fact that a lot of ministers have failed. All of us. You don't have to go up and down to know it. And the president is saying, when you come to me, you tell me we've achieved. Why is it that you are not talking it? Now, if the president does not rejig the cabinet and continues with them when he has acknowledged that a lot of them have not performed, that's where the blame will come. But when he said, I have assessed you, I will make a decision, go and talk to the Nigerian people about what you say you have done, then I will not be in a hurry to judge the president. What is my assessment about the president? I think that
I'll be shocked if the
president has done well.
Well, I'm not shocked about that, Mr. Bwala, but I'm saying that Nigerians see the realities and who they can look to. The president they voted for is the president,
and
the
he has
president
always said
ought to take responsibility.
He has always said the bus stop of my takes. Well, you've never heard him say that.
We have to anchor at this point.
Well, I want to ask you, have you ever heard him say
a pass mark, Mr. Bwala? So I think that after you give him a pass, we have to anchor. We have to thank you so much. I don't know if in the coming days we'll be seeing anything about your possible appointment, but we'll wait to find out. Mr. Daniel Bwala, legal practitioner, are people calling you incoming already?
Okay, I was admitted to practice in England by the Honourable Society of Lincoln. Incoming. What is in and coming?
There you go. Barrister Lincoln. Thank you so much for your time on the program.
Thank you. My pleasure as always.
We'll take a moment now. When we return, we'll turn our attention to the economy. Yes, it ties to this conversation, but we're focusing on the sub-nationals. That's in a moment. Stay with us.